So today we're going to do a very straightforward practice, short practice, and the idea today is that for those of you that are working from home and sick of looking at a computer screen or looking at me, can just do this practice without looking at the screen at all, just following my verbal instruction. So you will need a little bit of yoga experience so that you know what particular postures are, but you won't need much at all. So we're going to start today lying on our mats, and as we lie on the mat we're going to have bent knees, feet flat down onto the mat. Feel free to allow the knees to knock together if you wish, or keep the knees raised up towards the sky. And we're going to rest the hands onto the belly here. Just tuck the chin slightly so that your back is nicely resting onto the mat. And with the hands resting on the belly, we are simply going to observe the breath for a few moments. Breathing in and out of the nose if that feels okay for you. And you will notice that the belly rises with the in-breath and falls with the out-breath. And as you breathe into the lower belly, you'll notice that that breath works all the way up through into the ribs and eventually the collarbone. Breathing out from the belly to the collarbone. Breathing into the lower belly all the way up. And breathing out from the lower belly all the way up. And not only will your belly rise and fall, you'll notice that your ribs, as they lift and expand, they'll push up gently towards the head and then lower back down. So it's not just a lifting up towards the sky and lowering down. There'll be a rise up towards the sky and then towards the neck and the head. Now I'd like you to shift your attention to where we breathe into the back of the body. So you'll notice each time you breathe in that the back of your ribs will push into the mat here. Again, allowing that breath to start from the lower back all the way up to the upper back. Not altering the shape of the back in any way. The idea is not to push the back firmly into the mat, just notice where the breath pushes the ribs into the floor. And now let's shift our awareness into the sides of the body. And you'll notice with each breath, the ribs draw away out to the sides, drawing away from each other. So now let's put all those three directions of the breath together. So as we breathe in, everything expands from the centre. So from the belly, the lower back, the outer edge of the ribs, all the way up. And then as we breathe out, it all contracts back in. So each breath feels like it's drawing out from the centre. Taking a couple more rounds of that three-dimensional breath. then just leave the breath behind for a moment and just notice where you are on the mat. Okay, if you've had the eyes closed, let's gently flicker open the eyes. We're going to rest the hands down to the sides of the body. And once again, bring your attention into the back of your body. And we are going to work with the breath here. But before we do, just notice how your back feels on the mat. Just notice the curves and contours of your back on the mat. So you'll have that natural shape of your own back on the mat here. So you will notice there's a little gap in the lower back. And you'll notice that your mid-back, your shoulders locate on the mat. And you'll notice that gap at the back of the neck. So what we're going to do here as we breathe in, we're going to allow the arch of the lower back to increase as though the belly is lifting up towards the ceiling. And then as we breathe out, we're going to allow the back to flatten into the mat. So just continuing with that arch and flatten of the lower back. Breathing in, arching, and breathing out, flattening. We're going to add a little bit extra into that. So as we breathe in, start to feel like you're tipping the pelvis forwards as though your front waistband is drawing down towards your feet. Arching that lower back as much as feels right for you. And then start to lift the middle of the ribs and lift through the chest. So we're really arching the spine. And then with our next out breath, we're going to start from the tail end. So feel like you're drawing that front waistband back up towards the head, whilst we flatten the belly down towards the floor. Flattening the back of the ribs and bringing that space between the shoulder blades down into the mat. So inhaling, we're starting to draw that front waistband towards the feet, the lower back arches, the middle back arches, the upper back arches, the middle of the shoulder blades lifts. And then as we breathe out, we're drawing that front waistband back up towards the head, lowering the lower back, mid back and upper back down, pushing that space between the shoulder blades into the mat. If that causes your head to lift slightly, that is fine. We're going to continue. Inhaling, drawing that front waistband towards the feet, arching lower, mid and upper back. And then lowering, lower back, mid back, upper back, pushing that into the mat. Taking that a couple more times, inhaling, arching from the lower all the way up to the upper back, and exhaling, flattening from the lower all the way to the upper back. Let's go one more. And then we come into neutral. Okay, from here we can draw the knees into the chest. We'll keep the hands onto the top of the knees and we're going to circle the knees away from each other like we're swimming the breaststroke with the knees. Feet can stay together so big toes can touch but the knees draw away from each other. Nice big circles with those knees, drawing the knees out away from each other. And then we're going to circle in the opposite direction. And we'll come all the way back to centre. From here we can rock or push ourselves up to seated. When we get to seated, I'd like you to sit with the feet in front of you, feet about hip distance wide, feet flat down on the floor. Now we're going to bring the hands behind us and feel like you're creating an M shape with the body so that the bottom is right in the middle of the feet and the hands. So make sure you're happy with where the hands are. The fingertips can either turn towards the back of the room or out to the side of the mat or anywhere in between. So take a little moment in this M shape and we're going to look directly in front of us. And from here we're going to circle the shoulders, nothing else, just the shoulders. So we're drawing the shoulders up, forward rather, up, back and down. So with me saying we're moving nothing else, of course you will find that your body moves, your head, neck, torso, maybe arms will move here, keeping the arms straight. So that what we're actually doing is driving this movement in the body through this movement we're creating in the shoulders. Continue with those shoulder circles, just allowing the rest of the body to relax and do nothing and just passively move. One more round of shoulder rolls, and then when those shoulders draw back and down, hold it there. Okay, bring your hands in a little bit closer to your hips so you're sat a little bit more upright in the torso. And we're going to sway the knees from side to side. And as you sway the knees in one direction, look in the other direction. And as we do so, you can actively rotate your torso a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. So that you feel like you're turning your torso slightly in the opposite direction to your knees. You will find that you're moving your way up the mat a little bit here. So feel free to just work your hands up towards your hips a little bit as that happens. Once or twice more each side. And then we're going to come into neutral. From there we're going to turn over so that we come into tabletop so that we're on our hands and knees. So when we're there, knees are right underneath the hips, so the knees aren't together, the knees are hip distance wide, wrists are underneath the shoulders or a little bit further forwards if you prefer, fingers turned out a little bit if you prefer to. Okay, so we're going to take a few rounds of cat-cow here. So as we take a nice breath in, we're going to stay in our cow pose for a breath or two. I'd like you to cast your mind back to when we did that kind of cat-cow lying on the mat a moment ago. So really actively feel like you're drawing your yourself away from the mat here, just as we did when we were lying on the mat. Now let's take ourselves in the other direction into our cat. So we're grounding down through the floor, keeping the arms straight, tucking the chin and rounding the spine in the other direction as though we're pushing the back into the mat, just like we were when we were lying on the mat doing that cat-cow. So breathing in, feel like you're drawing the back away from the mat, like you did a moment ago, and now drawing that back into the mat. So continue with that kneeling cat-cow, feeling as though we're actually pushing into or drawing away from something with that cat-cow. Making it really active, really mean something. And starting with the lower back, working your way up to the upper back. into neutral here. From here we'll tuck the toes under, we'll push it back to a downward facing dog. So we're creating that V shape with the body. Feel free to move around as much as you like in your down dog. So as long as you feel like you're pushing the mat away from you with the hands, the rest of the body, keep it nice and loose and relaxed for now. Just walking out through the feet, so bending one knee, drawing the opposite heel down towards the floor as though you're walking on the spot, but the feet are going nowhere. One heel raises, then the other heel raises. Okay, lovely. From here we'll pop the knees back down to the mat. And we're going to step our right foot to the outside of our right hand. So we're going to stay here with that right foot on the outer edge of your mat, hands onto the inside of that foot, and take a few moments there, just take a few breaths there. If you've been sat at a chair all morning, you'll find that your hip flexors may be tight. This is just gently opening that left hip out. Feel free to add any little bit of movement here. You know me, I don't like to stay still for too long. Okay, from here we can turn the right toes out a little further if that works for you. And just allow your hips to sink a little deeper into the mat. So you'll just be opening through that left hip a little bit more. Feel free to walk your left hand further forward and further out to the side if that helps you to find balance, or take some pressure off the wrist if that's quite a lot going on in the wrist. And feel free to bring your right forearm to the leg, or right hand onto the leg, or right hand onto the right hip. And keep sinking the hip down to the mat. And it's quite nice to add a little sort of pulse here, so that we're using a little bit of our muscles here rather than just sinking into the muscles. We're using a little bit of strength here as well. So you can move around, you can lift that left hip and then allow it to sink a few times. Okay, let's pop the hands down underneath the shoulders again. Step that right foot back to all fours. And now that left foot can step outside the left hand. Hold on there for a few moments. Again, feel free to take a little gentle movement here. Okay, if you wish to take a little bit of a deeper stretch here, that right hand can step forward and wider a bit more if you wish. And now just allow that right hip to sink towards the floor a little bit more. Left hand can either come onto the knee or rest the forearm, or the hand can come onto the hip. Just taking a few breaths here again, just add really light pulses. So just lifting the hips slightly and then dropping it down. Nice and slow. And then let's pop those hands down under the shoulders again. Step it back to all fours. From there, grounding down through the hands, tucking the toes under, lifting back to our downward facing dog. Coming into a relatively static down dog from there. And what I'd like you to do here is draw your shoulders up towards your ears. And then relax the shoulders back away from the ears. Drawing the shoulders up towards the ears. And then relaxing the shoulders away. So it's like you're doing shoulder shrugs. What we're doing it here in downward dog. And what you may be noticing here is when you shrug your shoulders up, your shoulder blades may draw together. And as you draw your shoulders back, away from the ears, your shoulder blades may draw apart. So the shoulder blades aren't just going up and down, they're moving in different directions here, together and up, back and out. Keeping the arms straight so that the movement's coming into the shoulders rather than the elbows. Okay, come into that neutral space in your down dog. Move it forwards into your plank pose. So the shoulders are over the wrists. Feel free to drop the knees. You don't have to stay in a high plank. And from here, I'd like you to sink the shoulder blades towards each other, keeping in our plank shape. And then draw the shoulder blades away from each other. So shoulder blades come together, you'll feel like you're sinking towards the floor. Drawing the shoulder blades away from each other, you'll lift back up. But we're still keeping in that plank shape. We're not sinking the hips down towards the floor. One more. And then we'll take it back to a downward dog. And from there, let's pop the knees down to the floor. When the knees are to the floor, bring the feet out in front of you so that we're sitting on the floor with the feet in front. And we'll come to lie all the way onto the back. Ready for a bridge pose. So, lie on the mat with the feet about hip distance wide. Somewhere the feet are somewhere underneath the knees, not too close to the bottom. We're resting the hands down to the sides. Okay, from here we'll do a few bridge raises. So as we breathe in, we're going to ground down through the heels and we're going to lift the hips up towards the ceiling. As we exhale, we lower it down. Take that a few more times, grounding down through the heels, lifting up through the hips and lower it back down. As you do this, as you next lift, I'd like you to feel like you're pushing the knees away from your shoulders and lower down. And now each time you lift, not only do I want you to ground down through the heels and push the knees forwards, I'd like you to feel like you're lifting your pockets up towards the sky. I know you're probably not wearing clothing with pockets. Just imagine you are. Those pockets lift on up. That's where we're lifting through the pockets. And the next time we lift up, we're going to hold it there. And we're going to draw the shoulders towards each other. So we're just creating a little bit more space in the back of the neck here, so that we can now keep lifting through not only the pockets, but the chest as well. Take a few breaths there. And on your next exhale, let's lower all the way to the floor. Lovely. Just allow those shoulders to draw back out again. Rest all the way down onto the mat. Take the arms out wide for me, like you're making the letter T with the arms. And let's take the feet even wider, so the feet are about mat distance wide. And we're simply allowing both knees to sway from one side to the other. So we're getting a nice little twist through the torso each time we sway the knees. The knees do not have to touch the floor. You may find that your outer knee touches the floor. That's great. If it doesn't, it really doesn't matter. And we can add a little neck movement here as we go side to side. So as the knees sway in one direction, look in the opposite direction. So as the knees sway to the right, look towards your left hand and continue. And you can integrate this movement with the breath as well. So as you breathe in, the knees come to centre. As you breathe out, they move to the side. Breathing in, knees come to the centre. Breathing out, the knees go to the side. Of course, you can completely ignore that instruction if you'd rather take the knees a little bit faster. And the next time both knees knock to the right, just hold it there for a moment or two. Then we can take it over to the other direction. And we'll come back to centre. We're going to extend the legs out onto the mats. Take the feet nice and wide, keep the arms nice and wide. Make sure you're lying comfortably on the mat. And from here I'd like you, there's no right or wrong, I'd like you to add a little movement into the body. So I'd like you to gently move around through the shoulders. There is no need to look at the screen. Just do what feels right for your body. Feel free to move around through the arms and the hands. You can continue moving through the shoulders if you wish, or just do one part of the body at a time. And then we're going to move around through the hips. And we're going to start to move around through the legs. Maybe working down through the feet, pointing, flexing the toes, moving side to side. So we're either moving one part of the body at a time, or we've got the whole body shimmying on the mat right now. No right or wrong. And from there, just come into stillness for a moment or two. Taking a couple of breaths. That full three-dimensional breath that we started with. And then when you're ready, we're going to make our way all the way up to seated. Taking a little moment there. And when you are ready, come on back up and continue with your day. Thank you very much.